Struggling with anger is fairly common for autistic people, okay? The scale represents the intensity of your emotions, and when you start getting up around like a 5 or a 6, that's when you start acting irritable. This is overly simplistic. I just want to help you understand and recognize when you start getting up around a 5 or a 6. Right. Being autistic doesn't mean that I don't recognize emotions. For me, it means that almost everything aggravates me in some way. That's why I think it would be good for you to understand the scale. This is geared towards like kindergartners. Do I struggle with anger at times? Do I want to work on it? Absolutely. But I need something that's like for PhD students. I think you're not quite understanding how the scale can help. No, I understand it so well that my model has 3. Tell you what, I'm going to show you my model, and then we'll go from there. Fine. These are boilers. Tank 1's connected to Tank 2, Tank 2 is connected to Tank 3. There's a valve in between each one of them, so I can control how much steam travels between them. Well, what do the tanks represent? The first one is what my body's experiencing. The second one is what I'm feeling, and then the third one is what I'm showing externally. How is what your body's experiencing different from what you're feeling? This is physiological. I'm aware of it, but it's like data, and it's usually about the same pressure as what I'm feeling, but that's more emotional. Oh. So as the pressure comes into Tank 1, it's usually working in tandem with Tank 2 to release the pressure at a pretty steady pace, as in I feel my emotions and they dissipate naturally. And this is like 90% of the time, but sometimes the pressure builds faster than those 2 tanks can release it. And that's when you show it externally. No, I just increase how fast I can release pressure by like stimming or getting a break from the stimulus. And that's the other like 9.999% of the time. Usually, the only time that I change the pressure in Tank 1, what you see externally, is when the situation calls for me to appear more agitated. 3 tanks, just for the sake of complexity, doesn't make it better. Sometimes I'm in places where I can't stim, like an airplane with 2 kids. So as that pressure is building, as it gets up to be around like a 6 or a 7, I cut off Tank 2. I'm going to hold the pressure in Tank 1, and I can tell that I'm getting more agitated, but I'm not allowing myself to feel it, and that's to keep it from spilling over into Tank 3. So that's what we should work on. Now, just because I'm aware of a situation does not mean that it happens a lot. I find ways to limp along until I can get a break and take care of myself. The problem is when the pressure is building, I have it under control, but then I'm caught off guard. Like when a few big things happen in a short amount of time, and I'm not able to tighten the valve between Tanks 1 and 2, so it spills over into 2 and then into 3, and that's usually when I snip. Well, I think, well, hold on, that's fine, because I'm very quick to apologize and recalibrate, and it doesn't happen often. The real big problem is when I'm holding that pressure in and like a few big things happen or something really big happens, like my kid screaming in an enclosed space. The pressure skyrockets in Tank 1 past its capacity, spills over into 2, then spills over into 3, and that's when I shout. That's when I have a hard time recalibrating. And it doesn't happen often, like nowhere near like it used to, but I want it to never happen. So that's where I'd like to start. Can we focus on that? I just don't care for the 3 tank thing. 1 is so much easier to understand.